I think the biggest disconnect is people see a development from when it actually starts site work. They've missed the 3 to 4 years leading up to that. And so people all the time will say, oh, well, you just started this project because the site work commenced, and you want to sit there and just shake your head and be like, if you only knew the real story.
Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, powered by Contractors, Closers, and Connections, Orlando. Join me for in-depth interviews with some of the top commercial real estate and development executives in the industry. We uncover their success stories, their strategies, and their lessons learned along the way. Gain valuable insight whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. Success stories, overcoming failure, and learning where this developer got to where he is today. We sit down with part 2 with Tony Benge from Benge Development. Tony, thanks for joining us, part 2 on Beyond the Blueprint podcast.
Glad to be here.
So we had a great conversation in part 1, just kind of your origin story and learning about who you are and where you came from and getting started at 22 years old, which still blows my mind, and it probably always will. So good for you. That's awesome. So we're going to just jump into, we were talking a little bit off air about just some of the opportunities that came along between then and now and how they could have been missed opportunities. They could be blessings in the sky. So I wanted to jump into that and see kind of what opportunities you may have missed and how you look at them now.
Yeah, you'll drive yourself crazy looking back, armchair quarterbacking every deal you ever did.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at Eastwood and think, oh my God, give me that opportunity again today. We'd have done it very differently, different product types, classifications of assets we didn't even know about, really. And you game plan that in your head, but really you just chalk it up to next time we'll know better. And you try to take those lessons and apply them going forward versus just stewing on them and thinking about, damn it.
Right.
Just if I could go back and tweak that one little thing, it would make a difference.
Yeah. Well, and then there's like a tuition that's paid in there. It's like, well, you're better for the next time. Now you didn't have to risk yourself. You didn't have to put the house up, Yeah,
we were joking the 07, 08 meltdown that we had all the character building we needed, and we were ready to move past that onto something more profitable because it did prepare us for a lot of the challenges. Because like 07, 08 was probably the biggest ripple effect that everybody remembers in the market, where everyone was expecting just a typical down cycle, or a little bit. All of a sudden, when liquidity just left the marketplace completely, it was unprecedented chaos, and then a whole different set of skill sets came in, where it was just trying to negotiate with insanity. Because you had the banks that just were doing everything they could to make it impossible to just common sense went out the door.
Right.
And to watch that settle back in, and now to watch how that still carries the echo memory through I don't think banks have still even really come back in development the way they were pre-08.
Really? You think they're a little gun shy?
Oh, they're way below what they would ever do before. Doing Eastwood, you would get, with SunTrust, we could do an 80% loan on residential, roll it, no trouble. Today, if you ask for that, they'd look at you like you'd lost your mind.
You need to go find a bank.
Yeah, and it's understandable to some degree, but it never really brought the market back the way it should.
Sure.
And that created new opportunities and challenges as well. But it really is more every step. There's every deal we still learn something on, because there'll be some new environmental rules that have come in that suddenly have to be updated on. The zoning changes. I can remember Orange County in particular, if you would go anything over 4 units per acre, they would just wince. Now, they figured by consolidating density, it's much more efficient to maintain services.
Sure. Not
as many miles as sewer lines, water lines, roads to maintain. Density can be a good thing.
Right.
And to watch how we had to sacrifice all this land at great areas with only 3 units per acre when it should have been 10 or 12, and how that could have looked back of the differences is just staggering. But now it's, there's the new challenges. Right now, today with schools, everything you're doing, can you get capacity?
Right.
We've had 2 municipalities run out of utilities. In midstream, they just come and go moratorium, we're out. And just the unprecedented growth, they just weren't ready for it, and it snuck up on them, and suddenly now you're having to scramble that you've got millions invested in the engineering infrastructure, you've got land sellers that still want to move their dirt, and going back and trying to explain that
Can't.
nobody can do anything right now.
Right.
It's not just us, it's citywide.
Right.
And it just, that's where you've got to go all hands on deck approach and just figure out how to become a statesman, a negotiator, a politician, and everything else all in one. And
Put on all the hats.
Cobble it together and keep it alive.
Yeah. So is there a specific moment in your career that you would say was like the most pivotal, like where you're like, okay, I've got a good flow now, and when was that?
I'd say the two biggest pivotal moments were December 19th, 1994, when we bought Eastwood was the biggest. And then I would say probably May of 2023 will be the next biggest. And so that'll be a fun one to announce.
Yeah. That's a big deal.
That's a very big deal.
Kelly Park is a big deal. I know you're super excited about that.
We're
Yeah.
giddy about that one. It's
Yeah,
been many years in the making.
We were in Palm Beach with Joe was out there. We went playing the little par 3, and it was his birthday, and so they were all rattling about Kelly Park. And some of the people were at the event that came to the golf tournament, and they were talking about you guys speaking about Kelly Park. So it was pretty cool just to kind of have them there. I don't know who he was with. Maybe some of his partners or one of them. Does he have another guy that
he does?
Yeah.
Don Edwards is
Yeah.
the head of the Evans Group.
Got it. So if let's go to your definition of success. You seem like, you've done a lot, by far. You started very early. And now you're in this very pivotal moment with Kelly Park and some of the big things going on here. In your mind, with you and met your lovely wife, Robin, and so what is the definition of success for you?
To be happy and feel like I left the communities we were in a better place than we found them. Mm-hmm. That I will be happy if that's kind of the epitaph of my life.
So what would you say is like that driving factor for you, is to leave an impact on the community?
It is.
Yeah.
And we've been able to get involved heavily. I've been on the board of the YMCA since 1994. We're on the board of Junior Achievement, multiple chamber boards, other economic development boards. But it's been fun to give back to a lot. And even, at Popco has been very refreshing, where we were able to get with the SWAT team and donate. I think we've given them like 12 houses now to destroy and train on and everything. And that's a surreal experience to go watch what these guys go through and do, and then to see how they handle the pulse situation and everything. And so that even just helping them, it was amazing how just appreciative that everyone was. And in the middle of the lockdowns, they couldn't get anyone to rent a gala for them. So my wife, being the way she is, she just goes, well, I'll hold it at our house. So we hosted the annual SWAT gala
That's
at our
awesome.
house for the last 3 years. And it's been a blast because we love seeing those guys get to just finally unwind a little bit and be appreciated for something. Sure. But those are the kind of things we like, is just, we've been very fortunate with everything we've been able to accomplish development-wise to now look at, how can we, the communities we come to, how can we leave them a little bit better?
Mm-hmm.
And
then you found them.
And that's Robin's passion too. I've never met a woman with a better heart than her. There's not a cause out there that she won't want to do something.
Yeah.
And I know when she's standing at my door with a certain look on her face at the office, like, this is going to cost me, but what's the new charity today?
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that, because I've noticed, and so I'm watching the back end of CCC and who purchases tickets. I've noticed that you guys purchase tickets for every event, even though you don't come sometimes. So I want you to know that I've seen that, and if it's you, then great. But if it's her, just tell. I want you to know I'm very appreciative for that, because I know that it's not about you guys coming. It's about what we're doing to support the community.
We love Sponsor. We think it's a great cause and great organization that really connects everybody, because Orlando really has been behind. In Atlanta, we'll go up and meet with some friends up there that are developers, and the events and the organizations they have are spectacular. Mm-hmm. And it's so refreshing to see you guys form something here that we can finally have something of our own like that. Because even at these events, it's great to run into people, because just in casual conversations, you immediately pick up on things that, I can't tell you how many trades we've picked up coming to your events.
That's awesome.
didn't realize, we'll be talking about, oh, we're frustrated with this because we can't get anyone that's got bandwidth. They're like, well, we have awesome. Well, great, call us. And,
Right.
we formed some good relationships.
That's
with
awesome.
that. And we just think it's good too. I mean, we're working right now with Mina Robinson at the Small Business Advocates of trying to get a lot of the smaller contractors engaged where you don't have to be one of the top guys to get work. Right now everybody needs help with bandwidth. We love seeing the smaller guys get a shot to pair up with the larger guys so that they can build it up. And the politicians have led it because they're able to really promote the local groups, building the local communities, and then that helps them tremendously. We've committed with Mina's group to really push some of the minority contractors and some of the local contractors for Apopka that, we'll give them bid preferences because if they're local, we want to try to keep as much of the business in there as we can. And, groups like you helping promote this kind of exposure for that group has been wonderful for us. And we really see this as being a need because it's still the biggest struggle we have right now is finding people with bandwidth. Yeah. And we have core groups we love to work with, but they're maxed. I mean, we can't throw any more on them. And so this is a great venue to meet those people. And we like being able to get exposed to them because you're right. You get a flurry of calls and cards and emails and meeting requests right after the events. But we always weed through and pick 2 or 3 out that we'll actually do business with. Right. And so it's wonderful for us to kind of a one-shop stop to meet all those people and get them in. And hopefully it's a two-way street that they can go, well, they brought developers and we get work from them. Right. And so we like that symbiotic relationship.
Right. And there's a wide variety of people. I mean, you've got brokers all the way. I mean, we've had site contractors. We've got plumbers.
It's amazing. I mean, we've had literally from one pickup truck guys that might have a very unique specialty on some kind of water infiltration to brokers going, I've got 4 hotel guys that want to meet you tomorrow. When can we come? Soon. Come on. Let's go. But it really, and I think you guys have done a great job too of getting the databases established where the communication can flow both ways now. And, just as a developer, we want to say thank you to your group for doing that. And I mean, there's so much more that can be done. We know all the things you have coming that we're excited about as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some, it's interesting that you said that, with the small business and having the local municipalities involved and things like that. We're launching a committee the P3 committee that does just that. And so the goal is to connect the private sector and the public sector.
And that's one of the things we're really missing right now in Central Florida is there's such a detachment from some of the local governments and their understanding of the way things are done in reality. And I 100%. Think groups like this are great because they're kind of that neutral party that can go in and educate. Yeah. And I mean, we ran into it, and Kelly Park is a great example. I mean, we had the commission really fighting for, when are the roads and the infrastructure going to get there? And it's like, guys, look at everything coming. We're about to tear the hell out of that whole area. The last thing you want to do is build a road first and then knowing we're about to just demolish it. And I mean, you just look at the expression on their face when you explain, okay, these big dump trucks you see on the road hold 18 yards. Right. And we need to move millions of yards of fill. And all of a sudden they're going, that's a lot of trucks. Right. Now you know why I don't want to build the road right now. Right. Let's get that done first.
There definitely is a disconnect. I mean, we had a little small retail development on International Drive, and it was iDrive overlay in Orange County that they wanted something completely different. They're like, we want you to be right on the street because they wanted this new urban development. But then the other one, they're like, well, you've got to have a 35-foot setback. And we're like, you're going to take up half our property. Like, we can't.
Pick one. You can't do both.
Right. And it's all just like they don't understand, hey, the developer's got a need that he has to do to generate the backside of it. So
yeah, the planning, I swear, ULI presentations can be the most dangerous things for local planners sometimes because they'll see something they're doing in a real estate market like a Chicago or Atlanta downtown that the real estate's millions of dollars per acre, and they see these things done. Oh, that's cool. We'd like to see that here. No.
That's not how it works.
The cost would be extremely prohibitive. And I mean, we had that in Winter Haven. We did the Chick-fil-A down there. They wanted a 2-story Chick-fil-A with no drive-through. And you can imagine how that went over. Right. And finally, Chick-fil-A rep stood at one of the meetings and said,
That's not gonna happen.
Let me put it really clear. No window, no Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
They said, if you can find a Chick-fil-A in the nation that's 2 stories, call me.
Right. Right.
There's a reason it's not,
Yeah.
nor will there be.
There definitely is a disconnect. Today's episode is brought to you by Bryce Knuth of Insurance Office of America. As a contractor or real estate owner in Florida, you've likely experienced the impact of rising insurance premiums year after year. With the challenging insurance marketplace, having a specialist who focuses on your industry is critical now more than ever before. If you'd like a second set of eyes on your current insurance program or don't have a relationship with your current broker, please contact Bryce Knuth at 407-697-6944 via call or text, or email bryce.knuth@ioausa.com. Don't let rising insurance costs catch you off guard. Reach out to Bryce today. So we went through your definition of success. Let's go through, what would you say would be the biggest misconception about your success from the outside and then also internally within you?
I think the biggest disconnect is people see a development from when it actually starts site work. Mm-hmm. They've missed the 3 to 4 years leading up to that. And so people all the time will say, oh, well, you just started this project because the site
you
work
just started
commenced,
moving
and
track.
you want to sit there and just shake your head and be like, if you only knew the real story.
Yeah.
So I'd say the first is, if people knew how long things take to get through the process now, and the high levels of risk, everything else, it isn't what you see. I mean, everybody sees the highlights of, oh, we got our permits, oh, we started construction, oh, we got our CO.
You got a pretty building.
That's the last part of the of the journey. And so it's frustrating because people sit there and go, well, why are you complaining? You just started last week.
Right.
No, I started 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a lot that happened there.
That's the hardest part for people to understand. And even the politicians don't understand. I mean, when you sit and explain to them that, okay, if you want this particular retail or a restaurant open now, you're 3 years from that today.
Right.
And that's if everything goes quickly. And they don't understand the bureaucracies that they've built up. I mean, when you start explaining to them, by the time you go through a comp plan, zoning changes, water management district permits, Corps of Engineer permit, I mean, each one, it can be a year.
City Hall, development review.
I mean, and you never know. And I mean, you see deals get killed all the time for no reason, and it scares the hell out of you. I mean, we've seen some great projects get turned down for really no reasons.
Yeah. So, in development, there obviously is a ton of pushback, and there's an ebb and flow of wins and losses. So what's one thing that you would say that how you handle your setbacks and the failures, even whether it's in a development deal or even in your personal life, how you handle it and how you manage it?
I'd say with the setbacks, we try to be proactive and meet with everybody ahead of time that we know we're going to have issues with, and try to find common ground. A lot of times you just can't. I mean, there's some groups that'll come out as, proverbial NIMBYs that just don't want anything.
Right.
I mean, they'll sit there and say, we'll even be against one house being built. Well, okay, let's fight it out. I would say the biggest thing is, though, in the beginning when we would accept no's and just walk away, now we'll fight it out. And a lot of that has to do with resources, ability too. And Eastwood's a great lesson that, we were stunned after a 5-0 unanimous DRC approval, and then now we know we've been litigating for 2.5 years and we'll get to trial till November. But we're just not going to let it go.
Yeah.
It's what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong, and we feel we're in the right and we're ready to fight it.
Right.
Whereas, 15, 20 years ago, we'd have said, nah, it's just not worth the headache.
Right. And so, whenever you're navigating through that, whether it's overcoming those failures and objections, there still is a level of relationship that you still have to maintain. You can't just shit over everybody. You got to. So how would you say that you managed still having that relationship and building that relationship?
Tequila.
Or a bottle of Middleton.
Or a bottle of Middleton's. A lot of it is really, we try not to ever, napalm a bridge, but occasionally you have to. Mm-hmm. And I can count on one hand the number of we've had to go just, because you just hate being that way. I can respect a difference of opinion if it's based in something within reason. Yeah. If it's just to be a jerk, to say no because you just don't want to do something, That's not an acceptable response for us now. And listen, by no means do we ever think we're always right, and we'll listen to the community. But I mean, some of these are just so. I mean, it truly is amazing when you hear politicians now. Some will say they feel their job would be done if not another house gets built. Well, they don't need to be in a position of power.
Right.
I mean, that's such an unreasonable position.
Yeah.
I mean, in the same breath, they'll tell you we had the highest net migration at 340,000 people last year net migration, but you don't want any more housing.
Right.
See how this works for you. And then they will complain, well, the rents are too high. You ever heard of supply and demand? Has an amazing effect on pricing. You know, it's just, but they'll look at economic realities and just not understand them.
Sure.
And that's where the frustration lies, that there ought to be a better way to bring people together to say, look, we know what the needs are. Mm-hmm. We need housing. We need affordable housing in these markets now. And by making the development process longer and harder, you're not addressing that. You're really doing a disservice to to the people who put you in office. Because, I mean, even look at Orange County, when they did their moratorium, they were required to do a study by their own rule. The study came back and said, no, you're no different everywhere else in the nation. Well, we don't care. We're going to try to push it through anyway. That's the kind of, you just want to look at them and go, you're making a mockery of the process.
Right.
Why?
Just making it harder for everyone.
Well, and you're also scaring the hell out of investment out of your town. I mean, you guys love putting out there politically, rent caps, moratoriums. Investors don't like to hear those words.
Right.
They run away from it. And the fact that they were remiss and negligent and not getting enough housing there, they need to take a deep look at themselves.
Right.
And it's just
it
really
almost acts like a trickle effect, right? So I mean, the investors leave, development slows, commercial slows, jobs slow,
rent increases, scarcity rises pricing. So everything you said you were going to do for your constituents, you've done the opposite of.
Just by making a mockery.
Just by making a mockery of the process.
Right.
And behind closed doors, they'll tell you, yeah, we know. Then why do you do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's an interesting dynamic. So through all of that, I mean, because that's a lot of negative, right? I mean, it's a lot of pushback. I mean, you're clawing at. What's something that you would say that helps you kind of keep that positive mindset of, okay, we've got to figure out a solution, find the answers and move forward? The refreshing breath that keeps you doing this is you find the communities that want good growth and will come to you with, one example we loved was we're doing a hotel and, there's varying degrees of finishes, basically the low end or the high end, there's about $1.5 million difference on the cost of the hotel. We had one of the municipalities come to us and say, we really, we understand the market study said you needed kind of the middle of the road finishes. The difference of the upgrade, how about if we waive your impact fees to that amount? Done. They got a far superior product. Mm-hmm. Worked out the same. It was a push for us, but it was a catalyst that brought in a lot more growth around it at a higher and better level. And so they saw the benefit of their investment. Those are the kind of things that keep us going and motivated, that when you can sit down with people and have a logical conversation, present evidence, they can tell you their wants. And there was an easy meeting in the minds to say, I'll give a little bit, you give a little bit, and we had a much better project. Sure.
That's what we search for. When people take these approaches before they even have the evidence or what it is we're proposing, when they're coming out going, we just don't want any growth, period. That's a problem.
Is that a deal that you okay, we're not going to develop here? Is that something is that your approach, or is all right, we're going to try to figure it out?
There's municipalities, literally, we'll get a deal and we'll throw it in the trash can going, I'm not dealing with it. Because there's too many good places still to do business. And until those run out, why go through the brain damage of the ones that you don't need?
I can name a few off the top.
And the sad part is everybody knows the same ones.
Yeah.
And they really are doing an economic disservice. Mm-hmm. And they need to be called on it. And unfortunately, there's really not the right vehicle to do that. Because if I bitch about it, they're going to say, well, you're just mad because your development didn't get approved. And I can look at it at a holistic level and say, it's irrelevant in my project. You need 50 of these to catch up with your demand that'll start bringing housing back into a reasonable price point and everything else. And the more you just keep pushing it off, you're just exacerbating the problem that you claim to be fixing. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just even with the downturn, when we're bucking all the rent trends nationally, they ought to be looking at that saying, maybe we need to change what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's an interesting dynamic. I mean, development as a whole, it's a roller coaster is what it is. I mean, and I think a lot of people, there is a misconception out there in just my own conversations. I mean, I've had the opportunity to be involved in a few developments. I mean, and then have mentors that do a lot of developments. I mean, even yourself. I think people look at it as like, oh, it's a big, sexy development, but it's not. It is a roller coaster of whirlwinds.
Oh, it's a ever changing puzzle you have to learn to decipher quickly, and wherever you left it yesterday, it won't be there the next day. Mm-hmm. There'll be 10 new issues to pop in, and you just have to continually address them.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that insight. So we're going to jump into our rapid fire, then we're going to wrap this up. So first thing is going to be, what is something that most people don't know about you?
Probably that we were made honorary SWAT team members about 3 years ago. So awesome. That was as part of the whole...
All the galas
and everything. But they've just been great guys, and we love shooting and stuff with them. So that's kind of one of our great stress relievers.
That's awesome. When are you the most productive?
About 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then about 9 o'clock at night till about 1 in the morning.
Oh, so you're a night owl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Who's your inspiration?
My wife.
Your wife. She is awesome. One event, she put her company name or her title into the little thing. It said Queen of Everything.
That's how I have to address her. No, I got it right this time. She's the most loving, wonderful woman I've ever been exposed to.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you, man.
Yeah, she's a great. She has been there for me when I was at my bottom, and she's been there for me when I was at my top, and doesn't look at it any differently.
True ride or die.
Yeah, but will kill me in a heartbeat if I piss her off.
What's something new happening in your life right now?
Our new bulldogs. So my wife, when we met, I had a bulldog for 8 years that slept on the pillow next to me every night. And the first time Robin spent the night, it spent the night staring at her, growling, wanting to know why she was still there. And she swore there would be another bulldog in our house. And we now have 2 that are her children. Those are her favorites, and she's jumped the shark now and is a all-in bulldog mom.
That's awesome. If you had to go back to 22-year-old Tony, what advice would you give him?
Oh, God.
It could be encouraging words.
Get into multifamily sooner.
Yeah. It'll catch up eventually, I promise.
It will.
Yeah. That's awesome. What scares you?
Politicians.
Why?
Just the new ones coming in don't seem to be as informed or willing to do the work and the research before meetings. And so we're seeing a lot less true intellectual debate on something and more just cliches and emotion of things versus things being judged on the true merits of them. And that's very disconcerting.
What is, and this is, we're going to kind of side note, but what is something that we can do as a community, as being in the industry to help with that?
You know, Pasco has done something that is brilliant. They took something like Connected City, where they go in and do an overall master plan over thousands of acres. And so when you go into a public hearing there, you're already going in with the bucket of entitlements attached to your property. So you know what you're going to get, and if somebody wants to change it, they basically have to change the entire comp plan for the county. So it's completely opposite of everything we do here, where you're going in asking, can I do anything on my property? Right. Here you're walking in already with 600 multifamily units, this much commercial, whatever, and as long as I say I'm good with what was prescribed on the property, you know what you have.
Right.
That is so much better a way of doing these things than having the roll of the dice of a public hearing and officials that aren't even looking at the merits of the deal, but just the emotional temperature of the room.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think that would be, I think there's an opportunity. I think we're a little far from that, but
It'll have to come about. And what's going to be the driver is when certain municipalities completely fail their constituents by not getting the products built or delivered, or getting the pricing to a point now it can be affordable.
Right. All right, back into our rapid fire. What's the biggest compliment you've received?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably just the best compliment is seeing people utilize and love the places we've built. That's probably the best satisfaction we've gotten out of anything.
Made a lasting impact.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to describe yourself in 5 words, what would it be?
Smart ass. I am a risk taker. Hungry for knowledge. I'm funny and short. I don't know.
It's all relative.
Exactly.
Last question. If you had to ask God one thing, what would it be?
Can I come in?
Can I come in? Really? That's an interesting question.
No, I think it would be what was free will really your intent might be the question I'd ask.
That's interesting.
Because it answers the question of, why is there suffering? Why is there pain?
Yeah.
It's free will. And is that really the plan to introduce some adversity and see how people respond?
Yeah.
And it'll certainly show the character.
Yeah.
Because, everything's great when times are good. Let the
right.
adversity kick in. You're going to see the true measure
colors
of somebody.
Yeah. Well, Tony, I really appreciate it. That wraps us up on rapid fire, so that we'll relieve a little pressure there. But, man, I really do appreciate you coming in. It's been great sitting down here talking with you and on the Beyond the Blueprint podcast. And I really hope that our listeners really got to see who you are and not only your knowledge of development, obviously, but just kind of where you started, where you came from, and some of the things of what you view success, how you view partners. To wrap things up, how can people get in touch with you?
Best way is to email me,
Okay.
Tony@BengeDevelopment.com. And I live in meetings, so trying to call is almost good luck.
Yeah.
Emails we do respond to. Robin on my same email box, so one of the two of us will get back to you.
Awesome. Well, Tony, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for sitting down with us.
Cheers.
Beyond the Blueprint, this has been a great podcast with Tony Benge with Benge Development. Stay tuned for our next episode, and we'll see you next time.